Donald Belloc sent me another $1 million to spend as much as I wanted today, and he was going to talk about an important business, so he couldn't take me. I looked at the account. I already had a 10-figure deposit, which I had been wearing for 2 years and Donald Belloc had given me, but I'm not happy, because, with such a combination of beauty and money, I am just a handful of premature cannon fodder in this world. I can't spend all the money, and my life is not in my hands at all times. I've only read the synopsis of this book. I've only had 2 lines in this book. My brother, who has been fighting against the male protagonist, was able to survive to the finale? Why? So, I tried my best to pester him, trip him up when it's okay, don't let him intersect with the male owner. I didn't expect that today. I just got out of bed, and he slipped away. Help! The sky is falling. The old lady is going to die. I quickly jumped out of bed and asked the driver to drive me to Donald Belloc, who didn't even have time to put on my shoes. Donald Belloc was negotiating international trade at his frequented 5-star hotel, and I raced barefoot while talking to my royal private investigator on the phone. Mademoiselle, you guessed it right, the Dubois family is also interested in the international trade negotiations, and after they have talked with Donald Belloc, the next person to negotiate with is Jim Dubois. Jim Dubois, the male protagonist of this novel world. Donald Belloc bumped into the Dubois prince again, and as long as I wasn't there, the two of them could always rub each other, and I would really want to tie Donald Belloc to me if I could. When I went, Donald Belloc had already negotiated with his partner, and Jim Dubois was standing with him, in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the two of them were in a for-tat stance, and it seemed that their conversation was not pleasant. I hurriedly stepped forward and grabbed Donald Belloc. Brother, why don't you tell me when you go out? Julia Belloc misses you so much. 1 pull and 2 hugs. The action is so used to making people feel distressed. Donald Belloc looked at me and picked me up. Why aren't you wearing shoes? He asked me. My mouth twitched, and tears welled up in my eyes, because I can't wait to see my brother. After 2 years of wearing books, I have honed my acting skills at the actress level. Donald Belloc's originally cold and faintly gloomy face faded in an instant, and there was only concern and need on his face, of happiness. My Julia Belloc is so clingy, says Donald Belloc. If you're not sticky, he's going to be on a bar with the male protagonist if he's not sticky. And I'm complaining in my heart. Jim Dubois on the side couldn't help but smack his tongue when he saw our interaction. Those who know that you are brothers and sisters, and those who don't know think that you are a couple, he complained. The disgusted expression wrote the words, "No eyes," directly on his face. Donald Belloc bowed slightly at him, a smug expression. Not convinced. If you don't accept it, let your mother give you a sister, he said, and he carried me away. Who said that Lao Tzu has no sister? Lao Tzu has a sister, but Lao Tzu's sister was lost when she was a child, and when I find her, Mei Mu will not kill you. Lao Tzu's sister is more clingy. Jim Dubois stood in disarray, shouting at the back of Donald Belloc and me as we left. He broke the defense. Jim Dubois is the male protagonist. He broke the defense like this. I don't know if he will suppress Donald Belloc's company. When I got back, the more I thought about it, the more scared I became. So I had someone prepare a gift for Dubois' house, and wrote a greeting card, Brother Jim Dubois. If you want a sister, Julia Belloc can recognize you as a brother. Don't be angry. However, the gift I had worked so hard to prepare was not given because it was discovered by Donald Belloc. Donald Belloc sent someone to lock me up in the basement. In the dim light, he sat on the couch and stared at me with a gloomy face. I was staring at me uncomfortably, and my mind was racing, thinking about what I had done wrong again. And I had provoked this big guy. Donald Belloc is a villain, sick and irritable setting, and before I came through, his relationship with the original owner was not good, and I worked hard to repair it, and I kept showing favor to have my later comfortable days. Although I knew I was going to die young, I had nice clothes to wear outside, a chef's food to eat, and a bunch of servants who treated me like a princess. Lived short, but happy. But what could be in the dark basement, with only cockroaches, ants, and rats as company? I don't want to be so miserable before I die. As the saying goes, the one who knows the times is Junji. No matter what he is angry about, I will admit my mistake first. I climbed to Donald Belloc's feet, and grabbed his slender thighs. He didn't refuse. I had to go in and crawl into his arms again. Brother, Julia Belloc doesn't understand what she did wrong. She wants to be treated like this by you. Julia Belloc is so well behaved. You are my favorite brother. Am I not your favorite sister? I rubbed a handful of snot and tears on him. Donald Belloc's soft sneer came from his ears. I'm your favorite brother. Really? He said, pulling out a card. The one I was going to give to Jim Du Bois. Donald Belloc said, Brother Jim Du Bois, if you want a sister, Julia Belloc can recognize you as a brother. Don't be angry. So, that's why he's a dark and sick coquette, who wants to lock me in the basement. I was so angry that I grinded my teeth in my heart, but my mouth was so soft that I couldn't do it. Brother, I just saw that Jim Du Bois was in a bad weather, so I wondered if I could take this opportunity to get close to him, and steal Du Bois' trade secrets. You and Jim Du Bois have been fighting since birth, and we just want to give you a hand. Donald Belloc pinched my jaw, and looked at my face with his long, narrow eyes. I tried to be sincere, and in his eyes, tears glistened with tears, and I was extremely aggrieved. I think my acting skills are really good. When I go out, I must go to domestic entertainment to break through. Maybe I can also win an Oscar. At this moment, the faint voice of Donald Belloc came from above my head. I see. Julia Belloc must have thought I wasn't as good as Jim Du Bois. Don't worry, I'll take him down soon, and have him kneel at your feet to lick your shoes. Me. I was stunned by Donald Belloc's words. I had a dream in which Jim Du Bois knelt at my feet and Donald Belloc's feet, licking his shoes and swearing that he would make a comeback and make Donald Belloc, and I regret not doing the same. Years later, he made a comeback. The Belloc family went bankrupt. Donald Belloc jumped off the building, and I was thrown into a mental hospital, by him to be tortured like crazy. When I woke up, I was sick with a high fever of nearly 40 degrees. Donald Belloc was busy in front of my bed. Julia Belloc, my brother is wrong. My brother will never lock up your basement anymore. Is it okay for you to scold your brother for beating your brother? As long as you can get better, Donald Belloc said, and immediately told the maid to hire a worker to seal the basement. I'm sick, and I should have to take an inch. Then you don't work with this trading company. Let Jim Du Bois go, I said. Donald Belloc narrowed his eyes, his gaze scrutinizing, and nodded after a moment. Julia Belloc is what she says. My brother just listens to you. As long as you get better quickly, Donald Bellocrua said, leaning into my head. He called his secretary to cancel his cooperation with the trading company. I think I must have had a heart attack because I was fine the next day. I was humming in the garden and watering the flowers, as Donald Belloc returned in his favorite luxury car. He was so radiant that he came up with his hands out and gave me a hug. Julia Belloc is really a lucky charm for my brother. I gave that cooperation to Jim Du Bois, who actually laundered money, and Jim Du Bois almost jumped off the building now. Me. It's better to just let me die. The male protagonist is experiencing the haze of his life. As long as he carries it, the next step is to make a comeback, which is revenge. Donald Belloc suddenly gave in. Jim Du Bois suddenly snobbish. He must think that Donald Belloc did it. I don't want to be with the neurotic Donald Belloc anymore. If he wants to fall, he will fall alone. And if he wants to die, he will die alone. And I will slip away first. I prepared my ID card and bought a plane ticket abroad. Don't forget to open the Weshit account, and send a message to the top friend, with the note, sick and paranoid, break up. We are not suitable. The sick paranoid is Donald Belloc. At the beginning, I was worried that he, and Jim Du Bois would rob the heroine, so I specially opened a trumpet and dated him online. Opposite second back. Kiss bow. What's going on? Bow. You wait for me. I'll come to you right away. Bo. Reply to my message. Bo. Why did you get to the airport? I was so scared that my hands were shaking. How did he know I was going to the airport? I glanced at the phone in my hand, and it must have been him deliberately trying to scare me. I quickly blocked and deleted him. As long as I get on the plane abroad, as long as I land successfully, I will be free and safe. Since I can't change Donald Belloc, then change myself. Can't I escape? I got out of the taxi and went straight to the departure hall, walking and walking, when I suddenly saw Donald Belloc's long figure. He stood at the door of the departure hall, his arms outstretched, and he hugged me. I rubbed my eyes vigorously. I thought it must be just someone who looked like him. At this point in time, Donald Belloc should be in his office building, discussing with shareholders the future direction of the company, the increase in the stock price, and which opponent to suppress. Instead of here, play a game of cat and mouse with me. I skipped him and walked in, and just as I was relieved, someone grabbed my arm from behind. My good sister, where are you going? Or should I call you Kiss Baby? I wilted. Donald Belloc called for someone to take me back. In the exquisite princess room, Donald Belloc handcuffed my hands and feet with silver handcuffs. Where is my sister going? Asked Donald Belloc, tilting his head. I've been with him for so long. I know him too well, and the more flat his face is, the more angry he is inside. It's been a few hours since I was caught by him, and my little brain is spinning wildly, and I've made up countless reasons, but I don't think any of them can be used. Donald Belloc is a sick and paranoid person, not a fool, and I'm ready to run away, and he's not going to believe me. Since there is no good reason, I choose not to speak. My silence made Donald Belloc look impatient. Julia Belloc, you're so bad. My brother told you that the end of disobedience is very serious. Donald Belloc's eyes were dark, and his eyes were gloomy. I was about to leave, and when I saw that he was about to leave, I was anxious. I gritted my teeth, closed my eyes and said, because I'm worried that my brother will know that my online dating partner is angry with me. That's why I'm going to run. Donald Belloc suddenly smiled, and his face didn't matter. I already knew. Me, knowing that he still doesn't debunk. He enjoys orthopedics. Sure enough, it's sick. I can't look directly at Donald Belloc, but he was happy and unhandcuffed me himself, and he seemed to be in a good mood. I'll tell you a secret in the evening, he said, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise. I can't escape for the time being, so I can only stabilize Donald Belloc's mood first, and nod my head again and again. In the evening, Donald Belloc ordered a candlelit dinner to be prepared. In the past, he was so interested when he won one business after another, or watched the other company go bankrupt. Julia Belloc eats grapes. Julia Belloc eats a little cake. Julia Belloc wants juice or not, strawberry flavored. Donald Belloc is not as gentle today as Donald Belloc. I didn't dare to spoil him. I tasted anything he gave, but I was thinking about the next time I would escape. Donald Belloc took pictures of me, fed me food, wiped his mouth as if he were taking care of a pet. The photos he took are very beautiful, and every time I take them out, they are so impressive that I quickly posted them on Moments. The celebrities in the circle have asked me countless times who the maid who took my pictures was, and they wanted to pay to pry it away, and I said it was a selfie, but in fact it was Donald Belloc. I was reading the sour comments of the celebrities, and before I could get up, Jim Du Bois rushed in. What did he come to do? Could it be that you want to kill Donald Belloc and me? Donald Belloc, that's Julia Belloc's brother, said Jim Du Bois, pulling out a parentage report. I rubbed my ears and rubbed my eyes. I heard it right. I read it right. I am 99% genetically similar to Jim Du Bois. I looked at Donald Belloc, who put down his fruit bowl and looked unfazed. His slender fingers swiped across the table, opened the first drawer, and pulled out a document, also a paternity report. The parent-child report was older than Jim Du Bois. What the relationship? I always know, without blood relationship, she can stay with me longer. I almost vomited blood when I heard it, and sure enough, it was something that the sick girl would say. I sorted out the current situation in my mind, and if Jim Du Bois is my own brother, isn't Donald Belloc the man who gets along with me day and night, the male lead? When I realized the problem, I felt a chill down my spine. I didn't dare to get any closer to Donald Belloc, so I quickly bounced off the couch and walked over to Jim Du Bois. Thinking about the past 2 years, I blocked Donald Belloc's bidding, prevented him from negotiating business, and prevented him from meeting with the heroine. I thought I was helping him turn back, but in fact, I was a stumbling block on the road to success as a male lead. I almost fainted. Donald Belloc stood up with a complicated look on his face and walked up to me. Julia Belloc, you're hiding from me. Didn't you say I was your favorite brother? Faced with Donald Belloc's questioning, I just wanted to find a place to get in. I really hoped to wear it again. This time I will definitely not go to the male protagonist to be presumptuous. Jim Du Bois pulled me behind me, in a calf guard stance. What are you doing? You want to bully my sister in front of me, Donald Belloc. With me Jim Du Bois in one day, no one wants to bully my sister. With that, Jim Du Bois took my hand. Sister, let's go home. Donald Belloc's eyes were dark, and he smiled coldly. Have you asked her for her opinion? Maybe she doesn't want to go with you at all. I shook my head and nodded, my head fainting. No, I'm going with my brother, I said. I'm sure I can't be with Donald Belloc. And since I'm Jim Du Bois' own sister, I'm going to have to fight with him in the future. Donald Belloc stared at me, as if to warn me with his eyes, and I almost cowered behind Jim Du Bois in fright until I successfully left and arrived at Du Bois' house. I was in a trance. I've really been with Donald Belloc for 2 years, and I've really been presumptuous in front of him for 2 years as well. I swear I'll take a detour when I see him in the future. Jim Du Bois took me to meet my parents, and I was a little overwhelmed by their enthusiasm. It was late to get a kiss, and I came to my room sleepily. There were countless messages from Donald Belloc on my phone. Is it so important whether I am your brother or not? There are more sincere feelings in the world than family affection. Come back quickly before I completely lose my patience. I can forgive you for the choice you just made, Julia Belloc. I'm starting to get angry. Okay, as long as you come back, I'll say yes to anything. What are you doing? My brother didn't reply to the message. The confession should be over. The door is still open. I'm waiting for you in the living room, Julia Belloc. You'll regret leaving me. The last sentence carries a heavy resentment. I can't imagine what Donald Belloc would do to me, but I knew what I was supposed to do next. Whether it is the daughter of the Belloc family, or the daughter of the Du Bois family, I am rich, talented, good-looking and figure. I still have a bright future. I must live. My Weshit account also blocked Donald Belloc. After a dreamless night, the next day Du Bois' family officially announced the news that their daughter, who had been lost for 15 years, had been found, and a return banquet would be held soon. Jim Du Bois came to tell me that I didn't go back. Donald Belloc was mad, and I told him not to go against Donald Belloc in the future, and saw him walk around the road. Jim Du Bois didn't understand, but still nodded vigorously. Although you don't tell my brother the reason, you must have a reason for doing this. You are my own sister. You will not harm me. Seeing him smiling innocently, I am very sure that he is the villain male partner in this world. My return banquet was held very quickly, and all the famous people in Jingbai were invited. Jim Du Bois told me that Donald Belloc will also come, and this is unavoidable, because the Belloc family has a huge business at the moment. Even if the Du Bois family and the Belloc family have been secretly fighting each other, but the bundle will still be sent. This is a matter of face. I don't think Donald Belloc will be there. The dress is Schra. Du Bois personally selected for me is a world-class couture, and there is a crown full of diamonds, which belongs to the collection. Knowing that I was treated well by the Belloc family, they paid a lot of money for my return banquet to highlight that I was better at the Du Bois family and let outsiders know that the Du Bois family was strong. I had been sitting in the dressing room before the banquet started. I was a little bored, staring into the mirror in a daze, and Donald Belloc suddenly appeared in the mirror. I was a little surprised, but then I realized that he was the male protagonist, and I was the sister of the villain, the kind that died early, and I immediately wilted. Sister, no, it should be a kiss, baby. I haven't seen you for a long time. Do you miss me? Donald Belloc's double-door figure blocked the door to the dressing room. I was sweating profusely, trying to squeeze out a polite smile. Donald Belloc went to the wrong room. The banquet hall is going that way. I pointed with my finger, but he took my hand and grabbed it in his direction, and I threw myself into his arms. The familiar cold wood fragrance is about to melt me, and there have been countless times when I have the courage to pick him up, begging for a hug, and taking the opportunity to rub the oil. I still like you to call me brother, or cute, Donald Belloc said. I'm afraid that he and the heroine will intersect. When I opened a trumpet and he was dating online, we gave each other nicknames. He called me Kinbao, and I called him cute. Dead memories suddenly attacked me, and I was one head and too big. It stands to reason that Donald Belloc will not attend my return banquet, and even if he did, he would only send a representative of the Belloc family. And now he himself is here, probably to get revenge on me. Is he trying to ruin my homecoming? I was so frightened that I pushed him away. That's all stupidity of my youth and ignorance. Please Donald Belloc forget. I bowed 90 times and apologized, and almost knelt down for him. Donald Belloc didn't want to let me go. He approached step by step, cornered me into a corner. I had no way to retreat. He took advantage of the victory and pursued, pressing up. But I don't want to forget. My Julia Belloc made my heart flutter. But suddenly I forgot that you have no conscience. He attached to my ear. The warm breath hit my skin, and left me stunned. It's broken, and it's really revenge on me. Donald Belloc, I was wrong. I was begging for mercy, but his warm thin lips suddenly covered my mouth, and I couldn't speak. He grabbed the back of my head with one hand and put the other around my waist, kissing me very domineeringly, fiercely, as if he wanted to. I rubbed it inside him. I was caught off guard by the sudden kiss. My body was so soft that I slid down like silk, and Donald Belloc held me up and didn't let me go. It wasn't until footsteps outside approached that he let me go, licking the corners of my bitten lips in begging. When Jim Dubois arrived, I had already cleaned it up, and I couldn't see anything unusual except for my red and swollen lips. When he saw Donald Belloc, he became vigilant. What are you going to do? Jim Dubois stepped forward to protect me. Donald Belloc smiled faintly. Of course I'm here to give Julia Belloc a gift. Me. What ceremony? Kiss. He left. And when he left, he didn't forget to raise an eyebrow at me, looking smug and satisfied. In the ballroom, celebrities gathered, and although I was the protagonist of the day, Donald Belloc was like a shining star, attracting all the attention. His parents were so angry that they gritted their teeth. In a low-key way, I was dragged to meet the Dubois family, and everyone greeted me warmly, and I made many new friends. As I toasted with a group of young people, I felt a fiery gaze, and when I looked in the direction, it was Donald Belloc. I didn't socialize much in the past, but I looked at Donald Belloc for fear that he would clash with Jim Dubois. Second, he is sick, and he doesn't allow me to associate with those rich second-generation young masters. So, now I'm letting go of making friends. All of a sudden, Weshit exploded. When I had gone to the toilet in a daze, Donald Belloc picked me up, and left while I was washing my hands. Julia Belloc, you've been staring at me, at this kind of party, before. You're a little too lively tonight. Donald Belloc took me to Belloc's house, and threw me into my original room. No, I'm the daughter of the Dubois family now. Why is he still imprisoning me? I scolded Donald Belloc, but I can't remember exactly because I drank so much. When I woke up the next day, I vaguely remembered the events of the previous night, and I was a little afraid to meet Donald Belloc, until I heard from the maid that he had gotten up early to go to the company. No one stopped me, and I made it back to Dubois' house without any problems. When he saw me return, his parents immediately rushed up and asked me what had happened and if I was hurt. I shook my head repeatedly. His parents swallowed their hanging hearts back into their stomachs. I didn't know them well, but I could tell they were nice. Yesterday, you should have added a lot of Weshit messages of the young master of the family. Talk to them more. These are all related to our Dubois family. You're your parents' only daughter, and as long as you're willing to get in touch with them, they'll be happy to associate with you. His parents said a word. I remembered that after adding their Weshit last night, many people greeted me, and I was drunk and didn't reply. Mom and Dad, don't worry, I'll get along with them, I replied. I'm 20 years old, and I'm not a child, so they actually worry about me like a child. I didn't think much of it. They probably wanted to make up for the love I had for all these years. I had only been at home for a while when someone came to tell me that Jim Dubois and Donald Belloc were at odds. The reason was that Donald Belloc took me away out of the blue last night, and Jim Dubois had a lot of opinions. Jim Dubois had been scolding Donald Belloc for a long time when I went, and when he saw me, Donald Belloc shut up, leaned back on the couch, and didn't overdo it. Jim Dubois, however, didn't have the eyesight to see it, and he still didn't choose what to say. Oh, not to mention my sister, who has occupied other people's homes for 15 years, and now it's hard to find it, and you're trying to steal her back. How can the ruler of the Belloc family do such a thing? Donald Belloc. Believe it or not, I'm going to call the media right now, and let you go to the news for 2 days. Was you a towel in your last life? So twisted. Just staring at my sister. Why don't you rob someone else's sister? Donald Belloc is very good. I've tried to gag him in the past, so I've never found Jim Dubois' mouth to squirt better. I apologized to Donald Belloc as I pulled him. He drank too much last night and hasn't sobered up yet. I sneered. Donald Belloc gave Jim Dubois an expressionless look for Julia Belloc's sake. I'll spare you, Jim Dubois. Donald Belloc. Do you think you're awesome? Psychopath. Smack. I was so anxious that I raised my hand to slap Jim Dubois in the face. Don't say it. I almost cried. I used to worry that Donald Belloc would kill me, and now that I think I'm out there, Jim Dubois is even more irritating. Jim Dubois was blinded, but Donald Belloc laughed. Julia Belloc used to be soft-spoken when she tried to shut me up. He killed. After a pause, he added, Jim Dubois. Julia Belloc was someone else's Julia Belloc last night without me. Donald Belloc's words as he left stuck in my ears and I didn't understand what they meant. Jim Dubois didn't figure it out either. And then we both agreed that Donald Belloc was bluffing. His parents have been very concerned about me lately, asking me which of my new friends I have the best time with. I said a whole bunch of them. That sister in the Bridges family sings very well. That sister in the Alcott family is very good at drawing. And that sister in the Harvey family is very good at drinking. His parents looked at each other and waved their hands. We're asking about boys. Schwa. Dubois laughed. I couldn't help but frown at the thought of the boy. The first sentence of the young masters of the family, who was added to the banquet that day, was an introduction that could be searched on Baidu, followed by the same words, marry me. Dubois' family can reach a higher level in Jingbai. One sentence. I don't know. I think they pulled a group to copy and paste. So those young masters of this family, they didn't reply to the news, and they all deleted it directly. Hearing the news, his parents' faces darkened. They are all characters with heads and faces in Jingbai. How can you delete them directly? Whether you like it or not, there must be one between them who wants to be your future husband, and whoever has the best conditions will marry. This is the choice of a smart woman. That's it. Go and add them all back. His parents said a word, and I was silent. If I get married, I will definitely find someone I like, not someone who can bring me benefits. And marriage should not be clearly priced. I raised my head, and my tone was firm, as if I was taking an oath. Nonsense. You are the daughter of the Dubois family. Everything must be in the interests of the Dubois family, now that the Dubois family's economy is declining day by day. Marriage is the fastest way to make profits, Senior. Dubois. There is shrewdness in his eyes. I listened very uncomfortably, and was ready to continue to refute. Schwa. Dubois quickly gave Senior Dubois a wink, and then reassured me, okay, I haven't met a few times. What's the point of saying this? You have to take your time in emotional matters. Fortunately, my mother is reasonable, otherwise my next plan would be to run away from home. At their strong request, I added those sons and daughters back, one by one, and only then did I be allowed to go upstairs to sleep. Those sons of the family first scolded me, saying that I didn't know what to do, and then still made the same conditions for me to marry him as last time. I thought I must have been spoiled by Donald Belloc, and couldn't listen to such remarks, so I neatly deleted the person again, this time not forgetting to add them to the blacklist. His parents almost vomited blood when they found out. It's useless to talk to me online. Schwa. Dubois began to take me to banquets, or often invite his good sisters to dinner at home, always with their sons by his side. At this time I will definitely be Schwa. Dubois pulled to sit down and drink tea with these young masters of the family, and if he was not careful, he would be thrown down by them, so that the other party and I would have an embarrassing, two-person world. It was only then that I realized that I had come across what is known in legend as a marriage. But they're a bit of a human and will let me develop a relationship with each other. Looking at the boys at the banquet who took me as a prey, I had goosebumps falling to the ground. I just want to get away with it. But there was a person who didn't have the eyesight to see and followed me all the time. And even when I went to the toilet, he was squatting at the door of the toilet. Fortunately, he called, and while he was taking out his mobile phone, I hurriedly ran away. He retrieved his phone and chased after him, and I found a random room to get into. Donald Belloc was on a video conference and, seeing me, interrupted the meeting. Kiss Bao is in such a hurry. You miss me? Donald Belloc asked with a smile. I've just escaped from the tiger's den, and into the wolf's den. Donald Belloc, I'll stay for a while, I swore with my hand raised. Donald Belloc's knife-like face tilted slightly, and he pointed out, yes, if you kiss me. I kissed it, because I don't think it's as terrible as it is inside. With the relationship we have been together for 2 years, he won't eat me. Even if he wants to eat me, I just want to be his sister. Donald Belloc was in a good mood today, and he didn't take me to Belloc's house. When I returned to Dubois' house, Dubois' face turned white. Let you get along with other people's sons. You run in the corridor of the high-end entertainment club. Do you know how bad your reputation is in the celebrity circle? It's really time to learn some rules. I can see that she is really angry. I hurry up to be coquettish, but my set is useless to her at all. Dubois hired me as an etiquette teacher, a dance teacher, a piano teacher, and a painting teacher. That posture is like asking a poor student to be admitted to a prestigious university overnight. How could it be? So I got angry and walked away with all the teachers. Dubois looked at me with a headache. How difficult it would be for someone like you to let others find out about your shortcomings before you get married. I didn't react to What does Dubois mean by this? In high society, the second generation of noblewomen, celebrities, and rich people have nothing to do every day, either racing or horse racing, drinking tea or engaging in charity. Dubois cancelled all my classes for me, and said he was going to take me to this weekend's charity gala. I finally breathed a sigh of relief. I heard that there will be characters with heads and faces in Jingbai. Many of them are on the list of China's richest people. Knowing the gold content of this charity gala, I decided to follow as much as possible. By Dubois' side, he will never let himself be ugly. Jim Dubois also reassured, your brother and my identity are there, and the first thing everyone notices is me. So you can rest assured to be yourself. Eat whatever you want, drink whatever you want, and if someone upsets you, it's okay to scold him. It's better to be an older brother. It's true that no one pays attention to me. After all, I'm just an inconspicuous socialite, and there are too many celebrities like me here. Dubois was afraid that I would be compared to other celebrities, so he quickly took a picture of a piece of jewelry worth millions, and put it around my neck. She's weird. When Donald Belloc appeared, all eyes were instantly condensed, and the celebrities concave their figures, and the scene was comparable to walking on the red carpet. Not to mention, Donald Belloc is really handsome, and he has a good figure. I peeked at his fitness, and he really has 8-pack abs. When I reacted, I realized that I was stunned, and I almost fell to the ground. He's the male protagonist. It's not something I can covet. I just need to save my little life. Have money to spend. Just have a life to spend. Kiss the baby. How does it feel to see your cutie? Donald Belloc didn't know when he came to me. I really regret opening a trumpet and dating him online. I think I can be cured by him for a lifetime. Don't turn my head and pretend I didn't hear him. Dubois also hurriedly pulled me away, in order not to make Donald Belloc feel that I was paying attention to him. I added the weshit of the 2 boys that Dubois asked me to add. Jim Dubois got into an argument with Donald Belloc at some point, and when he came to me, he looked unhappy. Donald Belloc, that kid actually said I can't protect you. You're my sister. Even if the sky falls, I'll hold you up. How can I not protect you? Jim Dubois said as he grinded his teeth. Yes, in addition to yourself, the only person in the world who can be relied on is your family. Don't be angry, brother. You don't know how poisonous Donald Belloc's mouth is, I said. At the same moment, I remembered that at my homecoming dinner that day, he had pressed me against the wall of the dressing room and kissed me wildly. Donald Belloc's mouth, It's also a good kiss. Jim Dubois was slammed up, and Dubois was different. She had a lively conversation with the ladies. Every time I used to attend an event like this, I had to keep my eyes on Donald Belloc, afraid that he would meet Jim Dubois, and think that he had wasted a good banquet. And now I suddenly feel that this kind of banquet is not good. It's all business and mutual praise. It's all flattery. It's all showing off wealth. showing off affection, and showing off how good your children are. Schwa. Du Bois told me to go over and have a drink with the ladies for the sake of Schwa. Du Bois was in good spirits right now, and I didn't want to ruin her interest, and went over with my glass. She raised her hand and took my glass away, and handed me a glass that had been poured. Drink this cup. How many people have you saluted in that cup? This aunt's identity is different from others. Use a new one, Schwa. Du Bois said. I've never heard of this kind of exquisiteness, but changing the glass is not a big deal. I smiled and took it, and toasted the woman in front of me. Everyone laughed when they saw me drink the wine. This is my son. You young people need to talk more. Talking is the direct way to get to know each other better. No one is allowed to play dumb riddles. The aunt said, introduce me to boys again. I was already numb and nodded with a stiff smile. I don't feel like I've been drinking much, but I'm already a little dizzy and almost unsteady on my feet. Schwa. Du Bois hastened to give the boy I had just met a look. Julia Belloc doesn't seem to be feeling well. You can send her to a room to rest, she said. I was shocked. Mom, don't you send me? Let outsiders send me. And it's a guy I just knew. I asked. She didn't know how dangerous it was. Schwa. Du Bois gave me a blank look. Then you can at least let my brother send me. I was anxious. Schwa. Du Bois quickly called the boy to take me away. And I always felt that something was wrong. If you don't let my brother send it, then you send it to me, I shouted again. Schwa. Du Bois tore off the silk scarf around her neck, and handed it to the boy to gag me. And by this moment I was so faint that I could barely stand on my feet, and the boy dragged me towards the side door. If I'm right, it's Schwa. The question of that glass of wine that Du Bois gave me. They poured it into the wine. Damn. I didn't struggle, because now I have no strength. And struggling is just futile and a waste of physical strength. I can only bet now that Donald Belloc will come to my rescue. My phone hasn't been changed. Donald Belloc called me the emergency contact. It was him. I was taken to a room that had already been prepared by the boy, and I panicked, but I tried to calm myself down. Brother, can you go wash first? I have a habit of cleanliness, brother. Don't be too anxious. I'm a little nervous. Can I slow down, brother? I'm really not delaying time. You see, I'm shaking all over. He glanced at me, and took away my phone. Who said the supporting characters were stupid? I felt like I was about to pass out, but I didn't dare to faint, so I pinched my thighs hard to keep me awake. When I didn't have the strength to pinch my thigh, I hit the table, and the pain made me shiver. It hurts, but my eyes light up. When Donald Belloc slammed the door in, I was lying on the floor in pain, sweating profusely and with white lips. Julia Belloc, you can't even kill yourself in order to defend me like a jade. What kind of suicide is played? His expression was gloomy and full of anger. Me. The boy was only halfway through the wash when he was caught by the men brought by Donald Belloc. Fight to the death. Donald Belloc grinds his teeth. When I heard the word, death, I suddenly sobered up a lot, and tried to get my head out of Donald Belloc's arms. Don't do anything illegal. Donald Belloc, although he was not killed, Donald Belloc had him beaten for a full 30 minutes before being taken to the police station because I called him 3 times. I was taken to the Belloc house by Donald Belloc. I felt like I was on fire all over my body. My body was very hot, and at the same time, there was an inexplicable feeling haunting me, and I was uncomfortable, especially when Donald Belloc said to me, Julia Belloc, bear with me, the doctor is coming. His lips are so beautiful. I moved faster than my brain, and by the time I could react, his mouth was swollen from me. Julia Belloc, don't mess with me. Julia Belloc, stop. Julia Belloc, you're done. I'm done. I've eaten Donald Belloc clean. The next day, Du Bois' family was bombarded with phone calls, and Jim Du Bois went straight to Belloc's house to ask for someone. I grabbed a random white shirt from Donald Belloc's closet and went downstairs. Julia Belloc, brother takes you home, said Jim Du Bois. When I saw him, I subconsciously stepped back and moved in the direction of Donald Belloc. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to Du Bois' house again. Jim Du Bois frowned slightly, and Donald Belloc blocked me behind him, the land of jackals, tigers and leopards in Du Bois. My Julia Belloc will not go again. Didn't you keep saying that you would protect your sister? How could you make her suffer so much? Jim Du Bois, You still have the face. You really, damn it. If I hadn't been there, I was frightened yesterday, and Donald Belloc would have scared me, and I guess he would have punched Jim Du Bois in the face. I'm sorry. I'll give Julia Belloc an explanation for this, Jim Du Bois said, plucking his eyebrows. Donald Belloc couldn't help but sneer. How do you give an explanation? Let your mother simply say sorry verbally, and let this matter turn the page. Jim Du Bois. Those who do wrong are punished. Punish as you punish. Donald Belloc's eyelids lifted slightly, and his dark eyes flashed with a cold glow of rage. He was really angry. This is Jim Du Bois. The second time he didn't respond to Donald Belloc. He walked away in a huff. Schwa. Du Bois was summoned by the police station, and it was Jim Du Bois who made the call. And Senior Du Bois was terrified and tried to dissociate himself. In the police station, Schwa. Du Bois' face was stained with tears. Julia Belloc. Mom is also good for you, for the good of Du Bois' family. This is your fate as a child of a wealthy family, and you are already much happier than most ordinary people. Julia Belloc. How can you be so unconscionable? I'm your own mother. Will I hurt you? Julia Du Bois. Are you really going to put me in jail? You unfilial daughter. Spread it out, and I will see which man dares to ask you. Donald Belloc hugged me. I want to. By the way, her name is not Julia Du Bois. Her name is Julia Belloc. She has nothing to do with your Du Bois family. It's just a kindness. Don't kidnap her. The damage you have done to her in the past few months since her return has been undone. That's a blessing. You have to be glad you gave birth to her, or the Du Bois family is now gone. Indeed, with Donald Belloc's methods, the Du Bois family should have had an economic crisis the day after the incident, and not as uneventful as it is now. Schwa. Du Bois was stunned and suddenly fell to his knees begging for mercy. Julia Belloc. Mom really knows wrong. Please talk to Donald Belloc. Jim Du Bois. Do you really have the heart to see your mother in prison? I'm so old. You two are not filial. After making the transcript, I don't need it anymore. I just want to leave now. I don't want to watch Schwa. Du Bois went crazy. Jim Du Bois also walked with us. Senior Du Bois was terrified, and promised Donald Belloc that he would never trouble me, and voluntarily resigned as chairman of the Du Bois family, leaving all the decisions to Jim Du Bois, hoping to save it Du Bois home. What do you think? Kiss baby. Donald Belloc asked for my opinion. I waved my hand indifferently. Although his parents are not good things, and do anything for the sake of profit, Jim Du Bois is not their kind of people, and he should not be affected by the wrong things his parents have done. Although I won't touch the Du Bois family this time. If you have an opponent in the business field in the future, you can't let it, I said. Then I'm sure I'll make my brother-in-law feel a little bitter. After all, his mouth is really broken. Donald Belloc rubbed his ear. Arlobe. Truly. For example, at this time, Jim Du Bois shouted at the door of Belloc's house. It's all in the past. Although my parents did something wrong, but I didn't do anything wrong. Can't I even see my sister? You're not married yet, so you're living together. What kind of system is it? You can get married. Right. Got it. Right. Joy wine. Have my share, please. When you get married, you must invite me. I can sit at the door. Donald Belloc. Did you already know about his parents' plans? I asked. Donald Belloc's gaze moved from the document in his hand to me, his face speechless in capital letters. I can see that I guessed correctly. You warned me that I wouldn't have to suffer so much, I said. Donald Belloc pouted. Then you must think that I am weaving a lie to sow discord. He doesn't want to know me that well. 18 extra. Donald Belloc always knew Julia Belloc wasn't his own sister, but he didn't know who she belonged to. She is thin and small, and she eats so much at a meal, and the Belloc family is not short of money to raise a child. Later, after a long time, he forgot about her, until she was 18 years old, and she took the initiative to enter his room, and the reason was, she was afraid of thunder. Donald Belloc remembered that he had picked up such a sister. Julia Belloc is very coquettish and clingy, and she is almost tied to him. Donald Belloc hates troublesome things the most, but every time he tries to shake Julia Belloc away, her big watery eyes come to mind. She loves to cry and clingy, like a little pet he has. Later, Julia Belloc opened a trumpet to fall in love with him, and Donald Belloc suddenly found that his feelings for her had already deteriorated between day and night. He fell in love with her. He enjoyed every coquettish Julia Belloc, especially when she was preparing to go abroad. He panicked. He couldn't accept the loss of Julia Belloc. He decides to tell her that she isn't his own sister, but she and Jim Dubois are gone. Jim Dubois loves his sister, but the Dubois couple is not a good thing. They can do anything for the sake of profit. He secretly helped her several times more than once, but his parents were so bold as to commit crimes. In the few minutes he went to save Julia Belloc, his teeth were almost grinding, and he couldn't imagine what he would do if something really happened to Julia Belloc. Fortunately, she was smart and witty, and he arrived in time. What Dubois house? He won't let her go. The person he likes is the safest to keep by his side. Donald Belloc recently learned to surf the web in his free time with Julia Belloc, and internet memes change faster than anything else. He found that netizens scolded people in the comment area, and couldn't help but comment and ask, why is it cute? He doesn't like them to scold like this. How can such a good word be used to scold people? This is the affectionate name between him and Julia Belloc. Netizen replied, has your village just been connected to the internet? Big cutie is the meaning of big fool I. If you scold the big fool directly, you will be swallowed up, but you won't be able to scold the big cute. Donald Belloc read it carefully, and replied seriously, his face full of black lines. Walk over to Julia Belloc, who is washing up in the bathroom. Julia Belloc, you're done. That's when Julia Belloc remembered the meme. At the beginning, she did see such scolding on the internet, and it just so happened that Donald Belloc made her feel that she would be killed by him sooner or later every day. So she gave him such a nickname. Take advantage of him. Anyway, he doesn't go online, and he doesn't understand internet hot stocks. But now, sure enough, you can't let the bigwigs in the business district go online. You learn too fast. The shower was dripping, the glass windows were fogging, and Julia Belloc was pressed against the sink by Donald Belloc. In the warm light, it's a different kind of charm. Donald Belloc is like a wild dog, dragging the girl to perish with him. The end.